All right. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lorena. I work with the team of coaches in Poland and support with webinars like this and also do some onboarding. If any of you at any point in your program have questions about online training or even anything related to the program in general, you can always feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help you. I am based in the US, so there might be a lag with the time difference, but I will be sure to try and get back to you as soon as I can. So, a lot of times, as we discussed earlier just now, stressors that come up for some people, they don't know where to start, right? If you're at the beginning of your search, right, it's really a good chance to decide what is your system now, because then throughout the process, it will be easier. So, hopefully, I can answer some of these questions today. Or possibly you feel overwhelmed and burned out if you have been in the process, let's say for 3+ months, maybe even longer. It can feel overwhelming, and you can feel tired in this process. And part of the organization hopefully can also function to keep you motivated, because you can see, okay, I did a lot last month, or I had over the course of the last 3 months, I had 5 interviews, right? So that's information that's good for you, but it's also good for you to share with your coach. If they meet with you and ask you, how has it been going, you can pull up your system or your tracking sheet and have maybe an even more productive conversation about that. And a lot of times there is a lot to do, right? There are applications to submit, there are companies to research, maybe there are networking events that you could go to meet people in person. So part of the organization is also breaking down all the tasks and all the things that you could do into manageable steps. What are steps that you could do every week or steps that you could do every month? And really seeing it visually. I'm a very visual person. That is helpful for a lot of people. And another question that might be coming up for some of you is, what else can I do, right? If you're saying, I'm doing everything that I can and it's not working, a part of the organizing of the job search could also show you, right? Maybe there are some small adjustments that you could make, or some areas where you could put more attention and more time to have a better result. So today I'm going to talk about these 6 things. We're going to talk about scheduling and blocking time. This, right, is a useful skill, I think, in any task. And what I tell people when they start the program is that the job search in of itself, job searching, is a skill set. Aside from, let's say you're a programmer, or you're a teacher, or you're a graphic designer, whatever your field is, the skills of job searching are something that you may need to learn in addition. And scheduling and time blocking is something that's useful in any profession, and it's also useful in the job search. Picking a tracking system, I think, is in my opinion, one of the main important things is you deciding on your own system. And as I said before, this depends on your preference, depends on your um, basically how you work the best. And you know that from being in a profession for many years, right? How do you in your profession track information? And usually, right, the way that you do this best in your job is also the way that it would work best in your job search. So just choosing one, and we'll talk about different options there. For some people, not for everyone, but for some people, using a project management tool is also a useful thing. Nowadays, we have actually a lot of free project management tools. That means that, at no cost, you can download it to your desktop or use it online and have a more visual overview of the tasks that you're doing. So I will also give some examples of what that looks like and links to different tools that you could use and try out. And in my experience, trying different ones and seeing which one suits you best is a good strategy there, because yeah, each system is a little bit different. And number four, setting up and organizing your email inbox. This may seem pretty basic, but when you are receiving, for example, from Upwardly Global, I'm sure you all receive invitations and information. Then you receive information from your job coach, then also possibly from job openings that you have applied to. So, really staying on top of your inbox so that you don't miss anything important is super key. I have noticed every now and then, I'll send an email and the person's email inbox will be or Gmail drive will be full, right? So the worst thing that could happen is you receive an invitation to an interview and for some reason you don't see it or it gets lost in your email or you see it too late, for instance. So always staying on top of that is going to be um, you know adding to your overall success as well. Setting up your folders, and by folders, I mean folders that could be on your desktop or folders that could be online, for instance, in your G Drive if you use Gmail. And this is just a way, again, to keep your information in one place. For instance, keeping all your CVs in one place. Maybe you have 3 different CVs, or you have more that you have customized, putting them all in one folder. And then lastly, using templates for repetitive tasks or communication. Depending on your job before in Ukraine, maybe you also already use templates. Because the job search is essentially repetitive, right? You're doing similar things over and over again in order to get the one offer. I think, especially for this purpose, so that you don't burn yourself out and you don't have to work so hard, it is a really good strategy to develop key templates in your email or even, let's say, in a Word document that you can then copy paste and adjust. Doesn't mean you use the exact version. It just means you're not starting from zero every time you do it. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about these things. And I'm going to pause just for a moment to see if anyone still needs to join here. Okay. So, number one, as I said, scheduling and time blocking specifically for the job search activities. So, for instance, creating a weekly schedule that really depends on, right, your availability. I know a lot of you are working in jobs already now, either in Ukrainian companies, or maybe you have a survival job in Poland that is also taking most of your daytime energy. So this example might not be realistic for everyone, but my point is that you look at your weekly time, maybe it's on the weekend as well, and you uh, plan, okay, on this day I will work on this job search activity for this period, because they have shown in studies that when you decide to do something, it's obviously more likely that you will do it. I know that, after a long day at work, there's the last thing you want to do is to sit on your computer oftentimes. Um, and even if you are really motivated in the job search, it is still a good idea to decide on your schedule, even if you don't hold to it every day, having a general idea of the amount of hours that you have available for job searching activities. So, for instance, here, right, you could have the task of working on applications. You could have the task of attending an Upwardly Global webinar like today, a meeting with your job coach, attending the Business English Club. If you have, some upskilling or reskilling that you would like to do online, that's also related to your job search. And for instance, following up with applications. So as you can see, right, there's a wide variety of sort of tasks that you have during your job search, and it's important, to just decide which are those tasks and how many minutes or hours per week, for instance, am I able to devote to that, and then to reflect on that the week after, and ask yourself, okay, like, did I really meet that goal? Maybe it was unrealistic. Maybe you did meet it, right? So it's scheduling and then reflecting on whether that worked for you and then adjusting as needed. Job search is something called time blocking. Has anyone heard of time blocking before?
Never.
Oh, and sorry, I just saw a comment here. Okay, we'll get to comments at the end. So, time blocking is a method that is basically dividing your day into chunks, like blocks, dedicated to a specific activity or goal. And again, this might seem very basic, but what it leads to is a higher level of productivity, higher level of focus, because instead of jumping right from one task to the next, our brain needs the energy to focus and jump from one topic. We just focus on one thing, let's say for 30 minutes, or one thing for 1 hour. So, for instance, you can block 30 minutes for researching the companies and open positions, block another 30 minutes for studying, block another for applications. And you can do that right on, if you have Gmail. I think a good way visually to do it is on Google Calendar. You basically open your calendar, type in, the topic, and you can create also different color codes. So it's similar to scheduling, but it just means that you are reminding yourself, okay, this is time for me to focus on this, and it can help in organizing your time, structuring your time, because the job search does involve many tasks, as we discussed. So deciding beforehand what are those tasks, and just giving yourself the focus to work on them. And again, all of this advice is up to you, what works for you. So I say pick a tracking system doesn't mean you must pick a tracking system. It just means that this is a suggestion and could be helpful for some of you. So storing all your job details in some form, uh, you know, is useful. You can do this in Google Sheets. You can do this in an Excel document. You could even do this in a Word document. I would choose the format that you feel comfortable using. If you are not familiar with Excel, right? Maybe it's going to add additional stress or confusion to have your system in Excel. But let's say you want to improve your Excel skills for your applications even, then maybe that's a challenge that you want to set yourself. So just choosing one is the first step. We have in our program a document that I have linked here that you all have access to, and you can basically create a copy and then use it for yourself. The information that is stored there, for instance, is what is the next step? What is the company name, position title, job posting link? Sometimes the posting link becomes expired. That's why I also advise people to download or copy the job description, so that if you have an interview, you are able to reference back to the job description. The job description is your key for the interview preparation, especially, right, to understand what kind of questions will they ask, what kind of skills and keywords will they be most interested in. So the job posting is a very important thing to try and keep track of in one way or the other. Also, your interview progress. So, for instance, here we have you did the interview, check. What was the date of the interview? Did you send a thank you note? The thank you note should always come at least 24 hours after the interview. the date that you sent the note, and follow-up email. So I always also recommend, if you don't hear anything back within 2 weeks, to send a follow-up email reminding the contact, of the title of the interview date and your interest in the role. And then we have an area here of the date that you sent that. So this is information that will help you, right, when you're just looking back at what is my progress? Have I done everything in all the little for interview number 1, number 2, number 3? So the key pieces of information in order to record for your applications would be company name, link to the website, date of application, job title that you applied for. This is also key information if you're discussing with your job coach, right? Maybe these titles need expansion or adjustment, right? Maybe there is room to adjust your strategy based on the titles that you have been applying for and the success rate of your application so far. And as I mentioned, the link to the job, but also some other form because the link often becomes expired. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if we have any questions so far. And sorry if you just joined and we're stuck in the waiting room. I will make sure to not have that happen in our next call. Okay, let's continue then. And feel free to add any questions that you have in the chat, and we can also discuss at the end. So additional information to record would be hiring manager's name, the hiring manager's contact information, the interview dates as you saw on that sheet. This could also be really key interview notes. So if any of you on the call have already gone through interview processes, right, thinking about what could you learn through that process? What can you learn from, what went well and what did you think didn't go well? What needed improvement? And the best thing to do, because your memory will be fresh at that point, is to write down your notes, soon after the interview. Um, you know, it could be, for instance, what topics were discussed, what were the questions that they asked that you felt were difficult to answer. And this will be a really valuable reference for you when you start preparing for your next interview. Or if you have the chance, highly recommend to do a mock interview session with your job coach. That could also be very beneficial, that you have this document to reflect on and to discuss those specific questions or those topics with your job coach in the mock interview session. As you also saw, the thank you note information, follow-up information, and outcome, right? So what was the outcome of that whole process? You can also use tracking systems for networking. And networking, I think, is a topic that gets often overlooked in the job search, but it is so important because someone that you meet and have a conversation with could know, right, about about an opening in a company. Maybe they know someone that they could connect you to for an informational interview. There is a huge benefit to networking, and especially as newcomers to Poland, right? Your network is probably more limited than, of course, your network in Ukraine. And so trying to build that professional network slowly is going to help your job search, even if it means connecting first, like even with other participants in the program. So think about how you are wanting to and what your strategy for networking will be, and the information that you could record in terms of your progress would be the contact name and information of the person that you have met, let's say at an event. It could be their LinkedIn profile and connecting with them on LinkedIn, sending a connection request. Could be recording how you met them, like what are the relationship details. the connection date, for instance, if you did send them a LinkedIn message. And in terms of, let's say you have an informational interview, you would want to send a thank you note after, maybe even a follow-up. For instance, if they said, yeah, I will send you this link to this company, and they forgot, right? So following up and saying, it was great to meet you, just wanted to follow up on the company that you mentioned in our conversation. I would love to learn about that. And then, at the end, if you find that useful, the outcome of the connection or the outcome of the networking. So project management tools, again, for some people this is useful, for others no. It's just another option in your job searching toolbox. But basically, right, we have these four. There are many, many more if you were to research online. These are just the ones that I am familiar with. I personally use Asana, and I find it very helpful. If you are a visual person, right, possibly using something that's online that manages your different tasks would be helpful for you. Another thing to mention is that if positions that you are applying for have listed, knowledge or experience with project management tools as a skill that they are looking for, and you don't have that yet, this is a perfect opportunity to grow that skill. Of course, it's slightly different because you're not using it in a paid position, but you still are becoming familiar with the platform. You still are learning how to best use it for your own personal goals. So every tool or method I think that you develop and use in your job search is also transferable to positions that you are applying to oftentimes. So here's one person, and the source is linked here. One person is discussing, how they personally use Asana as their job search tracking. You can see they have the task on the left side, and then because it's not working with a team, usually, the project management would be including other people, but it's just you, so it's assigned to him. Then he has a due date for each task. So it's fairly simple and something that you could create, outside of a project management tool. But what's nice about it is that you just have, your login, and it's always there. You don't have to save it on a desktop. It lives online, and some people prefer those systems. Another piece of advice that, as I mentioned, was helpful for people is to set up and organize your email inbox in a way that helps you navigate it easily. So one idea is to color code your labels on the the left side of your Gmail. You have that option. You can color code them. You can give them different titles. For instance, job application flag, job opening. You could create a folder, for instance, that's all related to Upwardly Global, so that if you wanted to see all of them in one inbox or one folder, you would just click on that label, and then you would be able to see all of them. So it's a nice way to visually differentiate your inbox between different pieces of information, different focuses. You can also, of course, prioritize important emails. I'm only familiar mostly with Gmail, but you have like the star function to create filters that, basically help identify what is important. Maybe there is a task that you have related to that email, someone that you need to respond to, or, some other urgent thing to do. And as I said, it's something that's good so that you don't miss out on the important information coming to you via email. Another thing that some people prefer to do is enable notifications. So like turning on the desktop notifications so that you receive those alerts on important emails. You can set that up. I prefer not to because I don't want my my desktop being full of notifications. But if that's something that is helpful for you, right, that's an option. As mentioned too, setting up folders. So creating different folders either online, for instance, in your whatever cloud system you use, if it's Drive or something else, or physically on your computer desktop. And that just enables you to have an easy access and an easy place to put things so that they stay organized. I personally struggle with having a desktop that has many different things on it. So once a week, I have to put things in the trash and organize it. But having folders is a huge benefit there. And these are just a few examples, depending on what is important or useful for you. But for instance, you could have a folder with your job descriptions, right? Those are, as I mentioned before, really such valuable pieces of information because you can also use it to customize your CV. You have all those keywords. You have, different things that are important that maybe you're noticing, oh, there's a trend. There's something that keeps popping up that I actually don't have. Okay, this means I should focus on it in my online learning, or maybe I need to find a course related to that skill. So the job descriptions are a wealth of information in general. Customized resumes is also a folder that you could use, right? I always tell people I know it's time consuming, but it very much helps to customize each resume that you use in an application, because your chances of landing an interview, your chances of getting through the applicant tracking system, the ATS system, is going to be much higher when you customize. And for anyone who's not sure about customization, right, it just means that you integrate the key skills or keywords in the job description into your resume as much as you can so that, right, the match is higher. There's a great app. I will share it in our comment section in a moment. That's called, that just left my mind. I will share it following up. I'm not remembering the exact title, but this application will scan your CV and it will scan the job description, both of which you upload. It will basically look at both of these documents and it will decide at the end, it will calculate what is the percentage match rate. So you always want to be at 80% match rate. And if it's lower, you would, be best to go back into your CV and to adjust slightly your description of your duties and responsibilities or your key skills section so that the match increases and you have a better chance at landing an interview. Where am I now? Sorry. And then tracking sheets, right? We talked about already, but that would just be including your job application tracking as well as maybe a networking tracking. Or if you are focused, as many of you are, on your language learning, you could even develop your own tracking system for your language learning progress. How many hours a week are you devoting to that? How much speaking practice are you getting, for instance, in the conversation club, or maybe you are attending an in-person class, right? So that is a huge benefit to keep you not just on track, but motivated, because you can look back and see, wow, I really stuck with my goal. I really, did for last month, let's say 10 hours of language learning. So that's, a huge benefit in tracking your progress over time. And last but not least, so using templates for repetitive tasks and communication. As we talked about in the beginning of the webinar, the job search can be repetitive. There are many things that you will do, many times over and over again. And in order to make your life easier, in order to free up time for other things, I would suggest to create templates for different emails or communication that will help you so you don't have to begin from zero every time. a few examples of those types of tasks would be sending a connection request on LinkedIn, right? So that would just mean creating a document with your text and then copy and pasting that into whatever, whether it's an email or a LinkedIn message. Doing outreach to someone, for instance, to a recruiter or HR manager, the outreach is not always something that gets results each time, but it's worth doing nonetheless, because right, you never know what could result from that. So an outreach to a recruiter would be, finding them, for instance, on LinkedIn and introducing yourself with, your top 3 skills, and then asking them to accept your request and asking them to have a brief call to go over opportunities within the company. For all of these, I will also share links that include examples of templates. And you can also ask your job coach for that if you prefer to have one in Polish, for example. I'm sure that they would also be happy to give suggestions for that. Another situation for a template would be a cover letter template. Again, just like the CV, the cover letter should be highly customized depending on the position. I've been hearing too that in Poland, cover letters are not very common. I know that in the US, in a lot of industries, they still are common. And I would say, it never hurts to include a cover letter because it's additional information. It's showing that you are really interested and you put in the time and effort to introduce yourself. So, right, having a template general structure for the cover letter is useful. Networking email, we talked about networking, could just be a quick introduction to the person, thanking them for their time or for the information that they shared, and then a follow-up request at the end. It's always good to end with, what is the ask, right? What are you wanting from this person? Is it a follow-up call? Is it a meeting? Is it a link, right? So giving them a direct question to answer to. And then lastly, emails to ask for application flags from job coaches. If you're new to the program, or even if you've been in the program for a while, I want to remind you that we have an employer partner list. This is a list of employers, many of which are multinational companies that we have an established relationship with, and where we have the ability to flag your application. And what that means is, right, after you apply, and I believe for Oliver Wyman, before you apply, you would basically tell your job coach or me or Carolina, this was the position name, this is the company, and this is the date of application. Please flag my application for me. And then on our end, we will contact our person there, whether it's HR or recruiter, and at the bare minimum, right, we hope to at least get feedback. So if your application did not go through, we hope that at least we can understand the reasons why, and that you can use that information in the future. And in the best scenario, this means that we would be able to support you in making your CV more visible, right? So if there's a pile of CVs, the goal is to put yours a little bit closer to the top, so that at least it's being looked at. And yeah, so that's a benefit of the program that I do recommend you take advantage of. If anybody did not already receive the employer partner list, or you are confused about which companies, please let me or your coach know, and we can send over the list. And it's still not too late. It's always good to let us know. Let's say even if it was 2 or 3 months ago, we can still follow up with them and say, this person was part of or is part of our program. Please, let us know if the application was received. And some very just final tips for everyone. So, as I said, saving all job descriptions on your computer or in a cloud system, applying if you match with at least 80% of the job requirements, and that 80% you can calculate on your own just with an overview, or you can use Job Scanner. I will put the link in the chat. Always reaching out and staying connected somehow to your job coach. Maybe you prefer to just email because of your schedule, or I think it's really beneficial to have, even if it's just short, like a one-on-one check-in regularly, every 2 weeks or once a month, so that you can share your progress and you can basically use them and use their support in the best way. Spending at least 50% of your time networking. I know that sounds like a lot, but as I mentioned, networking is very overlooked in the job search, and it is a very crucial part to your success. And that's another topic that you can discuss with your coach is, what are the networking opportunities depending on the city you live? Nowadays, there's so many online, even job fairs that you can attend. There's ways to network online as well through LinkedIn. So have a good networking strategy in place so that you can also benefit from that opportunity to connect with new people. And I would love to hear from all of you, or any of you who feel that you have questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself or add any questions in the chat. If you have strategies for organization or tracking that have worked for you so far, I would also love to hear that.
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
There was a recommendation from my Polish ex-colleague to create one more version of CV, like looking more casual, and to use it during interview on the first day, like when I'm presenting myself to a recruiter. How popular and what do you think about this sort of document, and how efficient is that?
Yeah, let me see if I understand correctly. So the advice was to have two CVs, two resumes, one, as you
Yes.
said, more casual.
One more detailed, more formal, that is sent as part of the application process, and the second one is like one pager with maybe some information like hobbies, your values, something like that, and that is to let recruiter remember you better.
Got it. And you would submit both to the recruiter or only the more casual one?
I think recruiter should already have the standard one, so I think she also sent the second one as well.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that method myself. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it, because of course you always do want to stand out to the recruiter. That's a huge benefit if they can remember you. I don't know, as far as I understand from the recruiters that I'm in touch with, they're extremely overloaded with work, and unless you talked about this casual CV with them on the call, they might not take the time to look at it, because they have, piles and piles of CVs coming at them at all times. So I think that would be generally a nice idea. I don't know if I'm concerned that it might get lost in all of the communication, but certainly even for yourself to create a version that highlights some personal details would be useful because you can use it in your conversation with a recruiter. You could use it to connect with them more on a human, personal level.
Okay, there is one just thing that came to my mind that
Sure.
you know that when we just apply with a CV, this is a standard way, but when applicants start creating different additional portfolios, different profiles, etc., of course it helps to stand out in the crowd, but it adds additional standards that overcomplicates the process that is at the moment really very complex. When you have to create cover letters, you have to create a lot of applications, and you have different versions of CVs, and really you spend a lot of time that you could spend on self-study and become more professional and more knowledgeable. So I myself don't know what to do. Just I want to be competitive, but at the same time, I don't want to support this standard.
Yeah, I think it's important to ask yourself, like, where is my time most useful? How will I get the most, out of it? And that's maybe a, different answer for each person depending on where they are in the search. But another thing that also came to mind is that with, you know, with the information that you're adding, you also want to ask yourself, is this standard information? Is this information that will be read by the applicant tracking system? If you're applying to smaller companies, there is more flexibility. But if you're applying to larger or multinational companies, they have a pretty strict standard that they often stick with. So yeah, just some thoughts on that. But yeah, I understand there's a difficulty in deciding where to put your attention and effort. I'm just gonna check our comment section. Ala, did you have any other questions or comments there?
No, thank you.
I just wanted to ask, you told that there is a program which can scan your CV, right? Could you send the link or the name of this program to our chat, please? It could be very useful.
I'm just looking for it, and it's called JobScan, and I'm gonna put it here in the chat. I know from when I last tested it out, there was a limited number of times that you could use it for free, but it could be that it's now changed. But just so you know, there may be a certain number of times that you're able to use the free version. But it's called jobscan.co. Okay, I have a few questions here that I'm going to read out loud. So we have a question about networking. Understand that it means, but I don't quite understand what people actually talk about. Yeah, that's a question from Ludmila. So networking can be a variety of things, but it's basically making a personal connection with someone in order to hopefully learn about an opportunity or learn about a company. So networking, I always tell people, could happen any place and anywhere. You could be picking up your child from school and speaking with another parent. You could be attending a job fair and speaking with a company representative. It is a pretty broad term, but it just means to speak with and make a personal connection with someone in order to expand your network and hopefully, right, learn about different opportunities. For instance, one time I'm also a photographer. I was doing a photo shoot, and the person I was taking photos of, we were just speaking casually. And then this person told me about a organization, and I ended up applying for a position at that organization. So that's just a quick example to show that no matter what the interaction or what the context could be in some form useful for you professionally. You just never know. And then Yaroslav said, I suppose networking means the creation of your own net of contacts. That might be useful in job searching process. Exactly. Thank you for answering that as well. And networking doesn't just mean LinkedIn, although networking can also happen on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn would be like the online version of networking, but you can certainly network in person too. And then, is there any spot to see the examples of the cover letters? Yes, I do have a folder, and I will share it here, but I will also email it in. We have a program Google Drive that has a lot of great resources. I hope that all of you know about it. If not, I will share the whole folder here, and then within that folder, you can find many resources, including the examples for cover letter. So that's the G Drive link, and specifically here is the cover letter. Give me a moment to find it. Yes, here it is. So within the folder of cover letter, you have different resources, and this is all material that is in English. And if you prefer to have material in Polish, please ask your coach directly. All right, I'm going to keep scrolling down our comment section to just make sure I didn't miss anything there. So Olena is asking us what we think about cover letters that are generated with the help of ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT is great. I think it's a very useful new technology, new application. My advice on that, and I also have a presentation on ChatGPT that I can share with you for anyone who's interested, that breaks down, how to use it and different areas of the job search that you can that it can help you with. But my main advice with ChatGPT and generating cover letters or editing anything in your LinkedIn or CV would be to just always edit, right? To look it over, because it has a great ability to create structure and to give ideas, but it does need like that human touch and human eye to really finalize the product. So that would just be my only advice with that. But in general, I think it's good, especially for people whose native language is not English. It's an excellent, useful tool. Can everyone still hear me? My network is a bit slow here.
Yes,
so Olha is
Yeah, I hear you.
asking, will there be a separate? Thank you. Olha is asking, will there be a separate webinar about editing and fulfilling a LinkedIn profile? We can. I will say that maybe this was before you joined the program, Olha, but we had a whole 2-month series of webinars on each section of your LinkedIn. I have the recordings and the presentations for that. So I'm happy also to make that available. It should be in the Google Drive. I will double check if it's there. But yes, I think LinkedIn is very, very important these days. And I encourage you to learn about it and to use it and to make any of the updates or edits to your profile. And thank you, Tatiana, for sharing the CV Analyzing AI. It's called app.matchit.me. So for anyone looking for another tool, you can check that out. I haven't used it yet, but that's great. Where else? Any questions that I missed? What is the most useful? Okay, so Tatiana was explaining how to use ChatGPT. That's great. And then I have a comment from Alexandra about networking. That's great that you are working on it, Alexandra. I think that's very good use of your time. And if you have any tips for others on how to do that, that would be great. But in general, right, even just being aware that networking is important for your job search, that's the first step. And then figuring out what are some practical things that you can do. As you mentioned, it is about getting out of your comfort zone. I know that it can be uncomfortable, for instance, to go to a job fair to introduce yourself to a new person, but it's exactly the thing that will make you more comfortable in doing it, and the thing that will slowly, step by step, expand your network. And okay, we have some information sharing. Great. Anyone else want to unmute themselves and ask any questions that I didn't go over yet? Or comments are also welcome. All right. If not, we can wrap up here. As usual, I will share the document, and this time I will also include the PDF because I realize that online you are not able to click the links. So I will include the PDF. The PDF is clickable, so if you have links, you can access them there. And if you need anything else related to this organization topic, please feel free to reach out to me, and hope to see you next week in our next session. Also, quick reminder, tomorrow we have our Business English Club, same time from 7 to 8 CET. All levels are welcome, and it's a very friendly and great group if you haven't already joined us. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and see you soon.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
information.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.